Good? Sorry. We'll call the school board meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the previous minutes.
So,
How about roll call?
Oh, sorry, roll call.
Mrs. Grassi,
Here.
Mrs. Stevens,
Here.
Mr. Bollier,
I'm here.
Mrs. Harrington,
Here.
Ms. Keynes, Mr. Lynch,
Here.
Mr. Munn,
Here.
Mr. Pappas,
Here.
Mr. O'Connor,
Present.
Mr. Downs,
Here.
Ms. Ellis,
Here.
Mrs. Stokes. We have a quorum.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let me go back to my previously stated item. Need approval for the previous board meeting on April 14th and the area board meeting on April 18th.
Motion.
We have,
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. Thank you, Mr. Bollier. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Mr.
All right.
Fusi.
We're going to tune in Natalie. She's joining us virtually this evening. Good evening, Natalie. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you so much. Take it away.
Awesome. So if you guys don't have the handout, that's kind of what I'm going off of again. So Saturday's prom. I'm very excited. Am I okay to keep talking?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. Okay, this Saturday's prom, it'll be at the Borgata in Elliott, Maine. I know a ton of people are excited for that. Everyone's kind of been scrambling to finish up and get ready. Class council has been making all of these little DIY rain cubes and centerpieces for the tables, so those are going to be really fun. Also, tomorrow is the kindness rollout. So NHS Student Leadership in SALT will be visiting all the different elementary schools tomorrow morning during their drop-off times. And we're going to be outside with signs and just kind of cheering the kids on as they come into school, because we wanted to have a kindness initiative for the elementary schools, which is really exciting. I'm going to Maple. That was my elementary school, and I heard rumors that they're getting their mascot costumes out, so that's going to be a really fun time if that happens. Just last week we had a Spirit Week and a pep rally, and it was really exciting, both because we kind of incorporated some new Spirit Week days that we hadn't done at the school before, and also because the pep rally was at the community center, which hasn't happened since my freshman year before COVID, and the energy is completely different than when it's outside, and it was just a really fun blast. AP testing, on a more academic note, all the students last week took their AP tests, and the art students submitted their portfolios. They have all worked really hard. I have a ton of friends in those classes, and they've really pushed through this semester, and so that's really exciting that they did that. Band and Chorus will have a spring concert on May 16th. They've been working so crazy hard, especially after the play, and now they're going to have all these spring concerts, so that'll be a really great thing to attend. Spring sports, just in general, everyone's been really busy having fun with that. Baseball has won 2 games, and then also, right before I hopped on this, I was checking the Athletics Twitter, and they won tonight's game, so they're 3 in a row on a nice winning streak. And then there's also a home track meet on Monday, so that's exciting. Scholarship night will be on May 25th, and this year they're awarding over $185,000 to seniors, which is just a really wonderful gift, and I'm really excited that they get to receive that. Graduation, that'll be on June 10th. I know the seniors are looking forward to that. Top 10 breakfast, that'll be on June 2nd, so all of the kids that are top of their class this year will get to celebrate. The Congressional Art Competition, that was just last week. I actually attended that with another one of my classmates, Savannah, and we sent in works of art and attended the ceremonial event. We met Chris Pappas, had a great time. It was really nice to meet other artists from other schools. June 3rd, Chorus and Band will have an honors recital, so they just have another event going on. They're doing a lot. Job fairs, there's going to be 2 this month. One that just happened a couple weeks ago. That was for summer job fairs. A ton of I remembered Water Country, Dunkin' Donuts. There are a ton of manufacturing businesses, so really great opportunities. And then there's also going to be a senior job fair that'll be focused more on careers fresh out of high school for the graduates. Decision Day, Spalding will celebrate that on, I believe it's next week. And so students who are attending college or university in the fall get to wear their gear, which is really exciting to see where everybody's going. And then people who are entering the workforce can kind of dress up or wear something from their employer. Spanish Honor Society will have their induction ceremony on May 18th. So that's just more kids who have worked really hard through those language classes that are getting inducted. The CTE completer ceremony, students who have completed their tech programs this year will have a nice ceremony in the auditorium on June 1st. Everyone's welcome to attend, and it's really nice to kind of see how far these kids have come. Because those are I'm sure you know, there's 2-year programs, so it's really fun to see how those progress. The teacher appreciation lunches in particular, there were a lot of other fun events and raffles for teachers this last week, but NHS planned a lunch for just yesterday on the early release day, so their teachers got to send in their order on what kind of sandwich and drinks they wanted, and then the kids made it and wrapped up and delivered. And then also parents will have a teacher lunch on May 19th, so the teacher appreciation week just keeps going throughout the month, which I think is really great because I've had nothing but great experiences with my teachers, and it's really wonderful to give back to them. And then lastly, Step Up Day, that'll be at the very end of the year on June 14th. That'll include all the 8th graders through the current 11th graders, and that way you kind of get to visit your classes in the fall semester. And I always found that it's really important to get your traffic patterns down because there are a lot of kids in the hallways, and it's nice to know where your classes are and how fast you got to scramble to the other side of the building. So that's exciting. There's a lot going on, and yeah, Spalding's very busy.
Excellent, thank you very much. Any questions for Natalie?
Thank you.
Thank you so much, have a great night.
Have fun at the prom.
Thank you, you too.
At this time, I'd like to invite Dr. McDonald for Employee of the Month.
Good evening. We have 3 employees that we're recognizing this evening, and we're going to start with Mr. Kelleher, BCA. Changing it up a little bit tonight.
That's all right.
Thank you. Dawn Conley has been part of the Bud Carlson Academy for 19 years, which this Employee of the Month award isn't for longevity, but it certainly could be. She's really institutional memory of Bud Carlson Academy, and I think what's most impressive is during those 19 years, and certainly during this year, especially coming out of the pandemic, she's never resting on her laurels. She's always looking for new ways to service what are really some of the more marginalized populations that we have. She is a part of the leadership team at the school, has been a key component to having Bud Carlson Academy become a trauma-skilled school. She's our liaison for the multi-tiered support system, the MTSS piece, has been our Phase 3, our senior advisor for most of the years, and this year she decided to step down and help our Phase 1 kids, the youngest kids, and I think it's going to go a long way to really keeping some great continuity. She couldn't be here tonight, but I really appreciate having the opportunity to award her with Employee of the Month.
Thank you. And for the middle school, Mrs. Green is here this evening.
The Employee of the Month for Rochester Middle School is Tracy Smith. She's been an employee of Rochester School Department for the past 14 years. Tracy has been a physical education teacher at Rochester Middle for 10 years after spending her first 4 years at Spalding High School. I have observed Tracy interacting with her students daily, and it is clear to me how much the students respect Tracy as their teacher. Tracy helps to oversee our intramural program as well as the annual Extreme Dodgeball Tournament. After 4 long years, RMS was able to resume holding the Olympics, and Tracy is the beating heart of that. That makes it such an important part of our school. Not only is Tracy helping to manage the logistics of the event, she is also responsible for ensuring that all the t-shirts get ordered correctly. T-shirts may sound like a simple task, but the reality is that this requires Tracy to not only order 900 of them, but also to have a different colored t-shirt and a custom design for each of the 13 different teams. The true testament of this, that this happens so smoothly that there's barely a ripple for such a complicated task. The pandemic took a toll on all of us at the Rochester Middle School, and the physical education department has been no exception. While other UA teachers had to move onto carts during the school year, the physical education department had to spend the year outside to accommodate lunches. This year, until recently, we have still had to use the gymnasium for a few lunches that again also disrupted the physical education department. Through it, Tracy has kept her focus on doing what is best for her students. The physical education department has also been a tremendous help to our school by taking additional students to cover absent teachers each day. I cannot say how much I appreciate Tracy and the physical education department stepping up to do this each day. I do not know where we would be without otherwise. Through all the challenges we are getting through because of the efforts and employees like Tracy, please join me in congratulating Tracy Smith as Employee of the Month at Rochester Middle School.
Thank you. And at the elementary school, we have Mr. Gray this evening.
Good evening, Mr. Rapucci and members of the board. I'd like to ask Victoria Jenkins if she can come up and join me here. I call her up here because this is a long overdue recognition at the Chamberlain Street School. Ms. Jenkins has been working here for 9 years, and if I could share one thing in my experience I've had at the Chamberlain Street School this year, is that she is a force of support for all students and staff within the building. If you want to know where to find her when you're in the building, she's everywhere. Everywhere I turn, she's helping out with recess, with lunch, with students, supporting a classroom when the classroom's in need. It's just been a real joy to get to know her and work with her this year, and I appreciate her support in helping me as I've been helping the school this year. I'd like to share a few key words that her colleagues wrote about her. The first one that I think is important to start with is a colleague up here named Lori Bird wrote, "Victoria Jenkins is the coworker we all admire. Her ability to be there for the students is truly a gift. She is always willing to pitch in whenever needed without being asked. She is a great role model to students and staff." Mrs. Staley, who helps her in her day-to-day work, says, "Mrs. Jenkins is patient and kind to all the students she comes in contact with. She is creative and finds unique ways to engage with all students. She gives 110% of her energy each and every day. She is a pleasure to work with, and I'm glad to have her on our team." Mr. Combati, who hosts the classroom that she works in and day out, says, "Victoria is the epitome of an excellent employee. She goes over and above in her day-to-day work, brings extra joy to students and colleagues, and constantly offers to help out in each and every scenario, including our school play, which she just came from this evening, helping to volunteer, ran over here after that. She hasn't even been home yet this evening." And finally, another individual wrote, "Victoria is a pivotal key to our success as we lead in a student-based mindset. Not only does she exemplify our school values when working with students, she is also a leader amongst her peers. This recognition is long overdue." Please join me in recognizing Ms. Victoria Jenkins.
Just a few brief updates. As you all know, we have a community survey out there right now. It does close on May 15th. We have over 500 participants right now, and about 9% of those participants actually selected that they'd like to attend and participate on the 26th. So that's really nice. Final alert will be sent Friday afternoon, just reminding folks if they haven't had the opportunity to do so, that they still do, but then I do need to close it to start analyzing the data and planning for the 26th. Number two, kindergarten registration has been open since early February. It is absolutely pivotal that families hopefully hear this message. If you know of a kindergarten family, please pass this message along to them, that early registration is key. We need to know that you're out there, that we can assign you to the right school, that we can be giving you information as early as we stop school. We start talking about next school year and sending out pivotal information to families. So please sign up as early as possible. The registration packet is on our website under links for parents. Currently, we have 129 students enrolled. This year's enrollment in K is 242, so we'd like to see that number go up a lot by the end of this school year. At the last school board meeting, it was requested that we look into digital free and reduced lunch meal applications. As we know, this will be a very important task for us next year as meals go back to being charged. Linda and I are working with our point of service vendor, and hopefully what we will be required to do is change our point of service to a cloud-based system. The cloud-based system will allow us to have online applications that families will then be able to enter secure information into for that free reduced meal application. So we'll keep you up to speed as that kind of rolls up. We're currently hearing from our vendor and other vendors to figure out what's actually needed to do that. We also have food service negotiations coming up. We have an initial meeting with our attorney on Tuesday, May 17th, and I just want to thank Mrs. Stokes, Mr. O'Connor, and Mr. Downs for being on that committee with us. We did just finish teacher contracts recently, and I want to thank Mr. Bollier, Mrs. Harrington, and Mr. Lynch for their hard work during negotiations. And additionally, Maple Street Magnet School's 10-year anniversary is coming up. So the MS PTA and Dr. Mahoney is officially inviting folks, you all, former teachers, current teachers, administrators, staff, students, and families to come back to the school on June 17th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. for a picnic-style social. There will be food provided, but there will also be food trucks there for people that they can get something to eat while they're visiting old friends and family members. So we want to just invite you formally to that. And in closing, every May, from when I've been here and since before that, lots of teachers have asked me about this, is are you going to entertain a motion tonight to have early release on June 16th, as we traditionally had an early release day on the last day of school? So it's currently on our calendar as a full day. It always is currently, it's always entered as a full day on our calendar, but historically from apparently veterans from our community, it's never not been approved. So no pressure, but they were hoping you would approve that tonight so people can start making plans. So you can entertain that at the end of the day here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pusey. Any questions for Kyle? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to building committee. Ms. Stevens?
Thank you. The building committee began with a facilities update by Mr. Toddy. He talked a lot about what was going on with our grounds and different projects that they were working on for springtime. We talked about the building. If you noticed as you pulled in tonight, the slab is there, and I noticed wood, which is a good sign. So that's in process. What else? We had a couple of items. Let me go back. Motions that we need to approve. The committee recommends, and I so move to the board, that we approve naming the Rochester Middle School Gymnasium the Broadbent Bridges Gym.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we need to suspend the policy first?
I mean, it's up to you. The policy says that you're here tonight to hear from the public if they want, so you could make a motion to have public comment now about these two naming topics. So you could announce the second one and make a motion to move public comment up in the agenda. Is that correct, Jerry?
So would you rather do that? So we would have to hear from the public to approve it by the policy.
Right.
So if we take that motion off the table, move public comment to before, the public can speak and we can hear their contribution to the conversation. Then we can make the motion and approve it without suspending the policy.
Okay.
So-
I thought we were doing it first so that it could be the first hearing, but it doesn't.
I think you can list them.
So why don't you list the second one? There was a motion by the committee, right? And then we can make a motion to move public comment up.
Yep.
You'll hear from public, and then you can decide if you want to take a vote tonight.
Okay.
So just read the second one and we'll have public decide.
So, do we withdraw?
No,
No.
Just add a second,
just add a second.
add a second motion.
Yeah.
to-
Chair, typically, public comment is after superintendent's report. Is there a reason why
We were trying to get this so that we can get public comment.
Read number
We
two.
have to suspend the policy. If we get public
Okay.
comment
And-
after the first reading, which we had, we can then motion it without
I
suspending.
thought we had that wording last time that covered us to, it's just.
So we'll do the second one at the same time and then vote, okay. The committee recommends to the, and I so move to the board, the approval of, to name the Spalding High School softball field, the Sheila Colson Field.
So I'd like to make a motion that we suspend those two motions so we can move public comment on to address those two items.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have a motion and a second to suspend those two motions until we hear from public comment. So if you're voting yes to public to speak now, and then we'll come bring these back out of suspension to vote. Understand? So all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We can open the floor to public comment. Anyone wants to address the board, you're welcome to. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. State your name. We appreciate it.
Okay. So hello, my name is Shannon Colson, and I am here tonight to speak on behalf of myself and one of my former teammates that can't be here tonight because her team is competing in the regional for Hudson softball. And I think that, well, I'm hoping that the board will approve to name the high school softball field after Sheila Colson because this is her 32nd year coaching. She just secured her 351, 52nd and 53rd wins. Just 52, okay. Last week. She's a Rochester lifer. She was born and raised. Went on to where she played soccer, basketball, softball, successfully at Spalding, and then went on to Keene State, where she later came back to teach in the city of Rochester. She's worked as a lifeguard in the city of Rochester. She's coached youth soccer, youth basketball, various sports around the high school. She's also created, with a couple of students, helped the student athletic leadership team at Spalding High School, which they've done a really great job expanding over since I've been in school, so it's really nice to see. And if you know my mom, there's one thing that definitely is unwavering, and that's her care for the students and student athletes in the city of Rochester. She gives them all her time, whether it's on the weekends, late at night, anytime students need her, Sheila Colson will be there for them. And my former teammate wrote this nice little thing that I would share for her. She wrote, "In my 4 years at Spalding High School, I was fortunate enough to have a role model that contributed to all aspects of my life. Sheila Colson coached me in soccer and softball. She was my physical education teacher, one of my class advisors, a mentor in my Friends Forever International Club, and a leader for the student athletic leadership team. I know I can speak for my fellow teammates, classmates, and a member of the community when discussing the impact Sheila Colson has implemented at Spalding, and even more so in Rochester. Sheila provides an immense amount of expertise and knowledge, and she provides an eagerness to invest in others, specifically young women at Spalding High School as well as athletes. The Spalding softball program is unmatched because of the structure that Sheila created. She shows true integrity and dedication to the sport and the athletes, always trying to improve the program and being selfless in all ways. She instills confidence and reiterates the reward of working hard. Her enthusiasm is genuine, which makes it contagious. It makes you want to be a part of the bigger picture. In my personal experience, I have been able to truly absorb all that I can from Sheila Colson. Her guidance has given me unlimited amounts of opportunity. I was able to participate in a 10-day community service trip to Ireland with her, and adding to that, we planned school events such as halftime promotions for sports, the class proms and dances, and one of my absolute favorite events, the return of pep rallies. She always listens to what students and athletes need or want, and she does everything in her power to make sure we're happy and bring more spirit to Spalding. Just her alone made my high school years extremely memorable, but more importantly, I carried over all that I could into my college career. I just finished my junior year at Husson University as a junior captain for both the women's soccer and softball teams. I honestly believe I wouldn't be given this opportunity if it wasn't for Sheila. She inspires the youth by leading with humility, passion, and by doing so, she sets expectations and goals so everyone can be a part of results. Something that I envy and appreciate that she does so well is bringing groups of people together to push towards an outcome. She trains her athletes to be part of a team, first dynamic, which is one of the biggest lessons I took away with from my time with her. Without a doubt, she is one of the most respected competitors I have ever known, but I know she finds true happiness in seeing her athletes and students grow. Naming the Spalding softball field after Sheila Colson would be one of the best decisions that could be made. She brings an endless amount of energy, support, and creativity. Being coached by her is truly one of the biggest honors that I will forever cherish. And I would second that. So, thank you for your time.
Anyone else like to address the board?
My name is Haley, and I graduated in 2019, and I was lucky enough to play for 4 years under Sheila. And my goal growing up in Rochester softball, definitely I can speak for any little girl, was to play varsity softball for Sheila. Like, she was our idol, like the best things around. And no, I didn't know playing for Sheila would mean turning into family. Sheila, I can't cry because I just got my lashes done. Sheila, those 4 years, for like those that don't know my story, my senior year of high school, I was committed to play college softball at Springfield. But I found out I was 8 months pregnant during my senior softball season. My first thought was, I'm going to disappoint Sheila. And, sorry, all my other coaches gave up on me during that time, except for Sheila. Sheila showed up to the hospital with me. She was there for me, do the whole thing. And I just saw her on Tuesday, I'm sorry. And it was so hard not to tell her, like, oh my gosh, this is what's happening. But she has stayed in contact with me, like, she has turned into, like, a mother figure for me. And she literally just is so caring and passionate, and I don't know how you wouldn't name the field after her. I went to Ireland with her also, and during that time she lost her luggage in the airport when we arrived in Ireland, and most people would be pissed, they'd be so mad, but she laughed and she made the best out of it as she could. And I just love her so much. And she's such a good coach, in person, everything. And I wrote like this huge long thing, but I could ramble on forever about her. But yeah, I love her so much, and she's such a good person. I don't know how you wouldn't even feel about her. And I can't cry anymore. I just feel so much for them. Thank you. Oh gosh. Thank you.
Anyone else like to address the board?
Good evening. I'm Stephanie Nesbitt. I currently coach with Sheila as her assistant coach. I've been with her for 7 years now. I also played for her a long time ago. But I'm just here to speak on behalf of naming the field after her. She was my coach, mentor, and now my colleague and friend. She has dedicated her life to softball, and I cannot think of someone more deserving of this honor. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Dave Colson. I'm Sheila's favorite husband. I think it's a great idea. Sheila does an awful lot. I don't need to go into that. I already talked to you guys about it. I know we got a great fan base. But I'm going to talk to you about Bob and Barbara. I was lucky enough to work with both of them. I got to the middle school second year after it opened, and worked with them for 8 years. And very special people, excellent teachers. Bob was the type of guy, when you showed up, you wanted to be there. Every day was fun. Barbara, super professional. What they brought to the middle school is still going on. And middle school is what, 20, almost 30 years old? So that's what I think is very important to recognize these two. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephen, you're up.
Anyone else want to address the board?
Seriously?
Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment.
I'm not prepared.
Go back to building.
I'd like to make a motion that we pull the first and second item back onto the table to do a vote on our key recommendations from the committee.
Sorry.
I'll second.
So we have a motion to pull them off. They're now on the table. So everyone understands what you're naming, right? A yes vote is to name the Broadbent Bridges Gym at the middle school and Sheila Colson Field at the high school. Everyone's aware? Mr. Pappas?
Are we doing one vote for both, or are we going to separate
I
them?
think we'll do them independently. Just cleaner that way. Okay? So in regards to item number 1, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. In regard to motion number 2, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. You already covered the review, correct? We did that.
I think that concludes building.
Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Stevens. All right, moving on to other standing committees. Next one on the list is instruction.
Oh.
Mr. Pappas?
Instruction met on the night of April 21st. We pretty much had 3 things to discuss. We had an update from 2 teachers, Kathy Cotton, who's a CIA coach, but also Mrs. Tansey, brought to us an update on some professional development that teachers from across the district had an opportunity to go to, and brought back an enormous amount of information that they intend to implement already by the end of the school year. We had some summer school planning update, and we had a discussion about a request from the library department, I guess if you will, to make a recommendation, which we then put to the finance committee. And that was pretty much it.
Any questions for Mr. Pappas? Seeing none, we'll move on to personnel. Mr. O'Connor?
Thank you, Chairman Lynch. Personnel Committee met on Cinco de Mayo, and we have a couple of actionable items. So we'll start with item 1. The committee recommends, and I so move to the board for approval, the following resignations. And I will apologize ahead of time as I'm known to butcher names. So Caitlin Argo, teacher. Christian Berman, paraeducator. Kristen Crossier, teacher. Molly Hatch, paraeducator. Emily Lahr, teacher. Jessica Shern, teacher. Jeff Turgeon, paraeducator. Julie Barron Rice, teacher. Lucy Wackman, teacher. And we also have another one on our addendum, and that's Kimberly Pike, teacher.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
So now, I'd like to make a motion that we modify the agenda and move item 3 up to item 2 because it has an impact on some of the nominations in item 2.
Second that. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. O'Connor?
Okay, so we have, at the committee, we talked about one of the job descriptions that will be coming up for nominations. It's a title change to better align with the role of the position. It also adds some qualifications. Also kind of outlines who they supervise and some of the job goals, as well as better align some of the job responsibilities so that gives more clarification on what some of the wording means. So the committee recommends, and I so move to the full board for approval, the renaming of the Director of Student Services position to the Director of Special Education and Special Programs.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
All right. So next item, the committee recommends, and I so move to the full board for approval, the following nominations. Corinne Bethia, teacher. Adela Chase, custodian. Sydney Fisher, teacher. Lisa Gauthier, social worker. Hannah Gemes, teacher. Amanda Hancock, second cook / cashier. Morgan Kozra, teacher. Sarah Rittenhard, Director of Special Education and Special Programs. Bruce Tibbetts, custodian. And Laura Young, teacher. We also have a few on our addendum for nominations. Sarah Carey, guidance counselor. Jenny Lavasco, teacher. Ryan Kilpatrick, principal. Kimberly McGovern, teacher. Margaret Woodman, teacher. And James Warbell, teacher.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Downs.
Isn't Ryan Kilpatrick already a principal? So is he moving?
He's going to the middle school.
Shouldn't that be in the notes? Should we know that?
Transfer.
Should be transfer or should
Well, I think we discussed
shouldn't
it.
it be in the notes that we're going to middle school?
Yeah, I think we discussed it at the personnel committee.
Yeah.
It just wasn't addressed to the board that he was moving. So I think that was important.
Okay. I just have one, if I could, Mr. O'Connor. Mr. Rapusky, Lisa Gauthier, social worker, is she going to work central office or specific to a school? A little light on that?
It's school assignment.
Okay. Great, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
All right, and the final item, the committee recommends, and I so move to the board for full approval, the following stipends. Jenna Bunicki, Drama Club. Jeff Turgeon, Special Olympics head coach. And Judy Turgeon, Special Olympics assistant coach. And we have one more on our addendum, which is Jenna Bunicki for yearbook.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
And that's it for personnel.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. Special Services, Mrs. Harrington.
Thank you, Chair Lynch. Special Services met on April 21st, 2022. We reviewed our enrollment data with Dr. McDonald, the bus data, and the attendance data as well, and there were no actionable items that evening.
Any questions for Special Services? Thank you, Mrs. Harrington. Move on to Finance. Before we get to item number one, I'm going to pass this out because we have to make an adjustment. I'm going to keep this essentially this way.
You did that? Sorry.
That was a terrible throw. Do you have enough over there or no?
One more.
We can share.
Yeah.
Okay, you're good? Okay, so speaking to item number one, during building, Mr. Toddy explained the urgency or the need for constant masonry work as most of our schools are brick. He went out to bid and had found some people who were willing to do hourly rates. The information he presented at the board is shown in front of you on the left as presented. You see the first two columns. So we had agreed to approve MaceCon in the amount of $60 an hour for a bricklayer and $65 an hour for a foreman. Those were incorrect. So the new number, which the correct number should have been represented, and Mr. Toddy apologized, and we understand this stuff happens, is MaceCon liability, with liability, foreman $75 and bricklayer at $65. So understanding the urgency, not urgency, but the structure and why Mr. Toddy decided to request this, the numbers still make sense. So I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that the board approve Mace Con in the amount of $65 an hour for a bricklayer and $75 an hour for a mason foreman.
Second.
So a motion and a second. Any questions about that? I know we're throwing a lot at you here. Cool. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Committee recommends, and I so move the board approve the Bud Carlson Academy entry project not to exceed $23,240, which would come from the bonded CIP line 21110, which has a current balance of $26,201.42.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? It's a pretty lengthy discussion, so it's not up online if you need to see it. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And that is pretty much it for finance, right? Wait, oh yeah, never mind. Yep, started on the wrong line, finishing on the wrong line. Committee recommends the board approve a supplemental appropriation of $24,509.78 for library books.
Second.
Mr. Bollier?
I mentioned this when it was instruction committee, and I know it was a very lengthy conversation in finance about this. We have a budget process. That's great, in my opinion, and going on. And I feel it's important to have books. We do have a budget process, and we've gone through multiple stages where no one has come forward to recommend this from the building administration. So my vote would be no on this one, because it's creating a precedent that I don't agree with.
Okay. Anyone else? Ms.
I'll be
Stevens?
supporting the supplemental. I think, though I understand the need for process, this has been a very unusual time. And I think that the fact that there are, 4,000 books that are out there now in the hands of students, hopefully being read by not only the students but other members of the family. And we received information that they're putting safeguards in to keep this from happening again in the future. That it's $24,000 very well spent.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Downs?
I understand we have a process, but there's times we gotta go outside that process, especially for the kids in our school. That's who we have to think about, the kids in the school. So I'll be voting yes for this because this is for our kids, for the kids in the school.
Anyone else? Mr. Rapucci, if we could do a roll call vote on this. We have a motion and a second, correct? All right. Mr. Rapucci, roll call, please.
Mrs. Stevens?
Yes?
Mr. Bollier?
No.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mr. Munn?
No.
Mrs. Harrington?
No.
Mr. Lynch?
No.
Mrs. Grassi?
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis?
Yes.
6-4 passes.
All right. Motion passes. Sorry for missing that. I didn't miss it on purpose. I just scrolled, so my eyes are a little fried. That was pretty much it from finance. Okay? Moving on to policy. Mrs. Grassi, if you could, please.
Sure. Policy met on April 21st. The committee recommends to the board for second reading and adoption the following policies. Policy BDE, board committees and structure. This is just a review with no changes. And policy BDF, advisory committee to the board, review, no changes.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
And the committee recommends that I move to the board for the first reading the following policies. Policy EEA, student transportation services, there are minor changes. Policy EEAE, school bus safety program, minor changes. Policy EEAEC-R, student conduct on buses, bus regulations, has minor changes. No actions required for the first reading.
Thank you very much.
And that's it for April 21st.
Great. Any questions for Mrs. Grassi? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next committee. Special committees, 5-year. Mr. Bollier?
Committee met on April 18th. We reviewed 2 more committees. I drafted a summary of all, I know we have the minutes, but just more of a detailed summary, which Mr. Fucci got out to, I just remember your names, right? Fucci got out to the entire board, and we have the last 2 against finance, and we did policy, we did special service. Will be the next meeting right before the May 26th meeting. I think we've covered the goals, the outline, very detailed to the entire board to prevent questions going forward.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Bollier. Any questions for 5-year? Seeing none, we'll move on to Rec Arena. Mr. Camiri is not here, so we'll just catch him next month. Anything under old business? Mr.
I
Pappas?
assume this would be under old business, but given the request for a half a day on the last day of school, I would make the motion that we have a half day on, is it June 16th?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to change the school day from full to half on June 16th. Is there any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's hard for you, but
Well, I just want to be the one guy that said no.
anything under new business?
I gotta be in school.
I guess new business could be considered. The last committee meeting, you asked us to, the finance committee meeting, you asked us to put together a list of items that could be entertained by the board for surplus, and Linda has a handout for everyone for you to consider this evening. Mr. Toddy, if you want to come forward, they may have some questions for you.
Thank you. You got some, Don? You just leave it right there, that's fine, thank you. All right. All right, guys. Mr. Pusey, go ahead.
Yep, so again, I think it was Mr. Pappas had made a motion at the last finance meeting just to discuss other items that could be entertained with this year's surplus to offset next year's budget to help as we start planning next year. You can see that these items are mostly facilities or all facilities based, because obviously we have a lot of facilities and a lot of needs. Mr. Toddy is great to come forward and bring this together. So each of them is specific to facilities. It's in the future planning for next year, but it might make sense with your approval to consider these for appropriation this year instead of next. So I don't know if you have questions for any of these for Mr. Toddy.
Any questions? I just have one. Linda, this works out. We do this to meet the timelines, everything. No questions, concerns for you?
Yes, that's correct. And actually, we will be going out to bid for the truck and the trailer. And I know Mr. Toddy has talked to area vendors, and they do have them on the lot. So in the event that they bid and win the bid, we should be able to get it in before June 30th.
Thank you, Linda. Any questions? Mr. Pappas?
Just a question about the truck. That price of $50,157 is without the plow?
Correct. There's no way we can get the plow by June 30th. We won't see the plow. Even if we order it today, we will not have it in time for this fiscal year.
Can't imagine there are too many plows available in May, but I don't know.
I can get the lawnmower.
Is that something, though, that shouldn't be a problem getting after the next fiscal year?
Correct. It should not be a problem.
All set, Mr. Pappas? Mr. Downs?
Is it already in the budget, or?
This is from we have surplus. We're spending some additional surplus dollars to take away from next year's budget.
So is this outside the process, kind of like the books were?
A little bit.
Okay, just curious.
Okay. Mr. Pappas?
To address that, we have a substantial surplus at the end of this school year. These did go through the proper process for budgeting for next year because it's in next year's budget, but given that we have the number of the surplus number that has come in and estimated so far, we thought it would be prudent to spend that money now, seeing we have the surplus, so it would free up some funds for next year to purchase things that we might need next year.
Thank you. Mr. Bollier?
And just to be clear, this does not, our budget that we propose to city council remains the same, correct?
Correct. There is no change in the projected budget, we're just consuming products that fell under the schedule of one. I have one question, if I could. It says personalized learning workstation, high school. What, can you give us some?
Yes, I can. If you've gone to the high school during the day, you'll notice that all of our students have backpacks, yet we have thousands of lockers. Nobody really uses a locker. So for a while now, we've been talking about what could we do in this historic building that we're not going to change the facade, we're not going to change anything, but what can we do inside to come up to standards now? And you hear a lot about personalized learning and flexible learning. And so what we're trying to do with this pilot station is remove a bank of lockers. We'll recycle the steel, see what we get on the market for that. But then we'll put in high counters and power charging stations underneath. So I think Mr. Toddy's planning to do this outside of the science wing where they have a lot of hands-on learning going on. So if I were the science teacher, I could say, you guys are in this corner, lab station, you guys are in this corner, and then these guys get to go right outside the door here where I can still see you on the high top, using your Chromebooks, doing your testing in the hallway, if you will. And I think it would be a benefit to all of our students who, again, throughout the day, need to charge their Chromebooks or other things to access learning.
Mr. O'Connor?
Do we need to make any action on this right now, or is it going to go to finance first? And then...
No, the idea is to do this before, because if we meet in June, by the time we say yes, they won't have enough time to pick this stuff out.
Yeah.
It's May. It's fast, isn't it?
Mr. Toddy, do you have anything to add to that?
So if we bid out a truck, and if I fast track this truck bidding out, we're just trying to think through the dates, because we need to get back to these people very quickly. If we wait for a full board in June, I'm not sure we're gonna have time to do that. So I think what we're asking for, and I think this gets to Mr. O'Connor's question, we're approving up to these amounts, and then we'll go through the bid process, and if we can hit that, we'll go with the low bidder on those numbers. Do I have that right?
Right.
Thank you.
Just have to approve it.
I
have one question for you, Mr. Toddy. The trailer, what do you mean, a trailer?
That's, the trailer's actually part of the line for the articulated boom lift. The trailer that we have, the wheel wells cut into the deck space, and you can't get the boom lift on it. So this is what they call a deck over trailer, where the wheels are completely under the deck space, and this is the trailer that we would use to move the boom lift.
Very cool. And last question, if I could, the truck is still a one-ton?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Cool. All those in favor?
Was there a motion?
What?
There was no motion.
Oh, yeah, I thought you made a motion.
No.
Oh, sorry. I'm really screwing this up today. Is there a motion to approve the list as presented?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Can we clarify that it's a motion to spend the dollar up to that dollar amount and authorize Mr. Toddy to purchase up to that dollar amount?
Correct. We're authorizing Mr. Toddy to spend up to the amount presented on the list. Everyone clear on that?
Is it itemized or just grand total?
Kill
You're welcome.
Itemized. Okay. We have a motion and a second. I just have one more question for Mr. Rapusky, if I can. The personalized work area, if this is successful, is this something you might want to do again going forward?
Yeah, I mean, you think how large Spalding High School is, and if you know where the science wing is right now, it's on the first floor, kind of past the administrative office towards the cafeteria. So students during caf time, I'm sure, could get permission to use it, just like the cafeteria or classrooms would too. But you think about how far kids have to walk, you heard about that earlier. So having some perhaps on all floors in different wings in the future would be helpful. Not remove all the lockers, obviously, because we may need them and the students may want them, but probably phase some of them out.
All right. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Anything else under new business? Anything under other? Mr. Downs?
So, I've been digging into the hiring process policies. We have multiple of them, and I'd like to talk about them at the next policy meeting, but I need to know which one we have, GBA, GCD, and GCC. Those are all, is this a question for Andy, or a question, who's Do we put them all on the agenda?
What is the question?
I would like to discuss them at the next policy
Those
meeting. I
three
just don't, if, we don't need to discuss all of them.
So you just want an overview of what they...
I can tell you certain questions, but we talk about that.
That's
at
fine,
policy.
I think you can, Mrs. Grassy heard.
If you want, I can just email you, I guess we go over all of them.
We can put them there and look at them,
Okay.
and you can figure out which one is the one you want to focus.
Yeah, I was reading them and it just, they all kind of bounce around, so, okay, I'll just email them to you. And we'll go that
We
way.
can add it to the agenda, that's the right channel, thank you, Mr. Down.
CC Dr. McDonald with that.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you, Mr. Downs. Anything else? We do have norms, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Harrington?
So the last time we discussed this, we went through and picked out our top 7 norms, and then we said that we would also include the handwritten norms.
You're handing it out, we don't need to open it.
No, we have it here, we have a copy here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So this evening, we're just going to review the top 7 norms that were rated and discuss the handwritten ones. If there's any questions that you have, the idea is to all agree on a top 7.
So, Mrs. Harrington and I actually went through all of these together and collected the number of strikes. So we circled it, we counted it. So it's in prioritized order, correct, Mrs.
Yes.
Harrington? So number 1 was the most, that got the most votes. So you just know what people were, so we as a group, this is what was number 1 for us as a group, okay?
And on the back are the additional norms that were handwritten that everyone hadn't seen yet because they were written by individuals. And
Mr. Lawyer, sorry.
So one of the written ones, it's just, I'm just making sure that maybe the attention was a different word, but written in number 3, discussions related to board meetings will be discussed at committee meetings or board members only? Is it with board members only or board meetings
I
only?
typed exactly how it
Yeah,
was
it was written that way. So
That's
we-
how it was written.
So,
We discussed that because we were like,
Yeah, I don't know
so when it's
which-
in- and we just wrote it the way it was written.
yeah, I just don't, it can be taken 2 different ways, so just clarity if anyone wanted to clarify that.
And the other thought was some of these handwritten norms may fall under a norm that's on the front page. That's another possibility. We could see if they naturally fit into any of the ones on the front.
Any questions on this so far, guys? Everybody understands what we're trying to do here, just build a streamline, use the practices, best practices we'll try to do to go forward. Make sense? Mr. Pappas?
What I find interesting, I found myself over the weekend having a few spare moments in reading the city's ethics policy. And if you haven't read it, it's a very lengthy policy, but it includes a lot of this. So it says elected city officials will be supportive of others, will leave their issues at home when dealing with stuff, and a lot of this is covered under that too. So I think it's good to kind of reiterate that and put this in our norms. And I would strongly suggest you all look at the ethics policy if you get a chance. Just because
Sounds
there's
like
some
great
interesting
thinking.
stuff.
I think the general consensus here is that we all understand the rules and functions and how we kind of move forward. So that's all it is. Sarah, there's no intended action from this, right? Just a record?
Well, I guess it's important that we all agree to these, the top 7, that everyone is comfortable with them and in agreement with it, that we'll we're okay to follow through with these. And then also decide what to do with the handwritten ones. Can we fit them into ones that are existing on the front page? Are there any that everyone agrees to, that we want to
I mean,
add?
I think that because there wasn't enough substance when they're asked and they're written, we can make note of it, but we shouldn't be moving them. I think what we have, the 7 that we have, is what we should use. And if these, you know, we want to address to the people specifically who wrote them in, how they fall into those categories, we can do that. But I don't think we need to reorganize what we've done for these. That doesn't make sense to me, so. I think that, you know, understanding, does anyone have any concerns or questions or object to any of the stuff in the 7 norms? If you want more time to think about it, we could do that too. It's not a rush. No, because it's not a policy, it's not. So it's just these are the guidelines we're trying to instate, so we all play by the same rules. That make sense?
And it can also be a living, breathing document.
Right.
If we have issues that continue to come up, that's something that, like procedurally, that keeps happening, we might come together again, revisit our norms and say, you know what, we should add this one, because this is a commonality that we keep seeing. So we can always come back and revisit at any time.
So just communicate to Ms. Harrington or myself if there's something you want to amend this to the norms. Does that make sense, Sarah?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Downs?
I'll follow our policies, I'll follow these norms to a point, but there's time I will not follow these norms. I'm just letting you guys all know that.
It's fine.
Okay? Because I feel this board has given the chair and the vice chair a little too much power when decisions should be made by the full board. The full board is not even aware of questions that a board member has asked. So that really irritates me. That stuff may be for non-public, but that's where I'm at right now.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Downs?
Not at this time.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Anything under other? We need a motion to go to non-public. I'd like to make a motion to go to non-public under RSA 91A32A.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
No,
We need a roll call.